Hello, dear friends. Here we are for another study of the book Right Path by the Spirit Emmanuel through the blessed mediumship of Francisco Candido Xavier. And I hope wherever you are in the world, whatever time you're watching this, that you find this message is consoling to your heart. We are here broadcasting to you from Central Virginia in the United States of America, from the Spirit Society of Richmond. And in collaboration with Kardec Radio, we're bringing to you these teachings by Emmanuel. This book, published initially in 1970s, is a consolation to our hearts and show us the right path to achieve, to gain, to obtain, to be able to acquire the spiritual gifts that will bring us to the divine truths. And this chapter this morning, we always broadcast to you on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's titled Truth and Love. Isn't that beautiful? And then it's a blessing to be with you this morning. And we will read the message, make comments for our reflections as we go. Emmanuel titled this, we always look for the language, the concise, precise language of the good spirits. And the title is Truth and Love, chapter 38 of the book that I have, the edition I have. So let's figure out what is the truth and how love can be applied in order to acquire this truth. Emmanuel starts by saying, quote, effectively, we all turn to the supreme truth, which is the divine light. But until then, how many lessons will we need to get rid of our shadows? And in order to learn the right path to the eternal realities, only love can safely guide us. So here he has made to you and I a prediction, which is, it's an affirmation. We will all turn to the supreme truth, which is divine light. But until then, how many lessons will we need to get rid of our shadows? We will all reach divine light, a living light of God. We'll all become superior spirits. We'll progress to be a Christ spirit one day. But until then, how many lessons we will need to learn? He is referring, of course, to the law of progress. And you can go to the Spirit's book, question 100, and read the hierarchy of spirits. And he's saying, reminding us, we will all get to that divine light, to the light, living light, which is the supreme truth in the universe. He says, in order to learn the right path to these eternal realities, only love can safely guide us. There's no other way, dear friends. There's no other recipe in order to grow and to follow the right path to the eternal realities of the soul, but love. Not hatred, not division, not fear, but love. And this is also in accordance with these teachings of Leon Denis. In the book After Death, there is one entire chapter titled Love. I believe it's chapter 49. We've studied it before in a different program. And Leon Denis will remind us that love is the glue that keeps all of the universe together. So we are here to love one another. And love is kind, love is empathetic, love is compassionate, love helps, love is not selfish. Love is us using our abilities in this world in order to help others. I'm not talking about only love for a partner, a spouse, love for children. We're talking about love for all that is. All of nature we can perceive, all of creatures of nature on this planet and beyond. And when you look at the sky, love for all. Love that encompasses more than thinking of myself, my family, my entertainment, my challenges. I'm bored. I want to travel. I can't stand anymore. I had plans. Love that said that recognizes that sacrifice is needed for the progress and safety of all. Right? He will also say, we all on the earth, incarnate spirits, you and I, and discarnate ones, we're still attached to the earth. So beyond you and I in the physical world that we experienced are discarnate spirits who are still attached to the earth. And there's, of course, spiritual aid missions and groups that are helping you and I each and every day of our lives, all the time. And he says the discarnate spirits and the incarnate spirits attached to all of us connected to the earth, one family on the road to immortality. So we are all one, regardless of where we are, what we look like, how we say things, our cultural background. It's one family, all on the road to immortality. That goes back to being loving and kind to all, because tomorrow you may reincarnate in your next life in a different part of the world. And how would it feel to be there when someone else is discriminating against them? Or wouldn't you like for the rest of the world who are in their comfort zone to look and see the needs and be able to provide us with help? He says, however, the whole family here, on the long evolutionary excursion, how many of us still has needs or still in need of support? Isn't that what we're seeing today? All around us, we can, with the current state of the earth, we can see the needs are exacerbated, the differences are exacerbated, and we all collectively being trialed in this love that will safely guide us to the eternal realities. We have to talk about being loving and kind to all. Knowing of these implies the responsibility of doing the best you can with all the resources that you have to all around us, not only the ones that belong to our groups and the ones who think like us or the ones who are related to us, right? He will give examples of people who are still in need. He'll say, one person admitted him or herself strong enough to oppress the destiny of others and threw themselves in excesses of power. Don't we see that still on the earth? Disrupting his or her brain, spending vast time in disease and restoration. Because power is not for oppression of others. When you have a position of responsibility where you're in charge of activities that can better the collective, it's a responsibility to serve. It's not for us to enrich ourselves and to feel powerful and to oppress others, but we still see parts of the population who act this way. He'll say another one took enormous debts, enslaving him or herself to complex situations in which they will require laborious effort to get out of. Still, a different one, this is the one that we see a lot as well in today's planet, where we think everything should be easy, there should be no difficulties. He'll say, a different one deluded him or herself with regard to rest and joy, with no basis in responsibility, and temporarily losing the faculty of discernment, transcending labyrinths of spiritual blindness. Dear friends, are we these ones deluded in regard to rest and joy, thinking life is just for enjoyment? Of course, the Law of Labor says in the Spirit's book that we need to rest the physical body in order to take good care of it. We need to nourish it well, the law of preservation, the law of labor. There's a limit to, I'm not saying just work. What I'm saying is there's got to be a limit to just resting and being joyful. We are called to help one another. We're called to give up comforts so others, we can help with the needs of others. Because when we invert the situation, imagine if we were the ones who were in need of help, wouldn't we be so joyful if someone could rest a little bit less, watch a little bit less of the streaming services, scroll less on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or whatever social media we are using when you're watching this in the future. If they did less of that, and less of their enjoyment and thinking only about them, filling out the curriculum for their family and friends and kids so they can get to the right schools, and they would find rest and joy in service. When you go serve the homeless, when you go serve the elderly, when you volunteer to take care of children. If we were those in need, wouldn't it be joyful? And wouldn't we be grateful that those people have finally stopped being deluded that life is all about enjoyment? Right? He says, indeed, all of these brethren, which is you and I, all of us have done some level of these, including the Spiritist movement, which there's a lot of the problems of power here, of people putting themselves in positions, leading people, and misguiding the whole group. He says here, all of these brethren, you and I, must be readjusted and healed in order to proceed upward. However, for this, though, it would not be enough to shake them with condemnatory statements about the ruins and struggles in which they find themselves. So here we are being called to examine ourselves, and if we find ourselves in these positions, to be like, we're not condemning, don't feel guilty or shame, but make a commitment that today, for each hour you spend on your enjoyment, you're going to spend another hour doing something for someone else. Not just giving excesses of your time, money, and resources, but also giving up some comfort so that you can be of service to others. He says it's urgent to administer care, assistance, medicine, and understanding. It is a call to action this morning. He says, no, so far on the earth, we're similar to students going to school, or patients in a psychiatric hospitals. That's you and I. We're still here to learn, or we're going about our days without the mental balance that is needed for progress. Without mutual understanding and help, it may be impossible for us to acquire readjustments and clarification. Mutual understanding and help, meaning I'll help others even if they think differently than me, even if they post different things. We're seeing all over the earth the needs of others being, from one hand, the technology allows you and I to be here together, nourishing our souls this morning. We also need to think about it exposes us, allows people to use it. The technology is neutral. The use of the technology that is concerning. Some people will use the technology to reach others in order to hurt others. That should not be us. But also allows us to have a glimpse of the needs all over the earth. And sometimes because there's so much need and there is so much you and I can do individually, we feel overwhelmed when we don't do anything. But he says mutual understanding and help. We're seeing the disasters, we're seeing natural disasters, we're seeing man-made disasters, we're seeing the pandemic, we're seeing the needs, we're seeing the inequalities. It's for you and I to stop and say, God, I'm here. I have so much. I've received so much. How can I give within my circle of influence? If we're not put in the position of power where we can make decisions to better the lives of all, because remember, the powerful have a responsibility as much as the ones who don't have power, even more, because now you're in charge of making things better or worse for others. Then we can ask, okay, I'm not the mayor of my city where I can make decisions about improving the condition of parks, about improving school conditions to give opportunities to all. What can I do within my household? What can I do within my block? What can I do within my neighborhood? So on and so forth. And how can I spread the joy that I have to others? A lot of people are born in situations where they don't have all the resources that you and I have. We don't start all in the same spot. Of course, all of us are here to learn, but we need to ask ourselves, how can I do more? How can I serve more? As he's saying here, we don't want to be the ones deluded in regard to rest and joy, thinking, okay, I work 8 hours, I work hard, I have the right to enjoy. Yes, you have the right to rest. But we also have the responsibility of helping those who come our way. Last but not least, he will say, with certainty, worlds will shine forth in the cosmic immensity, in which creatures already have become light, confusing themselves with the splendor of the suns, in which the exalted realities of life are combined. We will shine forth, and one day we will be those creatures already of light, indistinguishable from the suns, in which the exalted realities of life that you and I can't even imagine what it is to be amongst a Christ spirits, one or two together. Can you imagine a couple of Jesuses together? We can't, because this exalted realities of life, we're not there yet, but we will be there, because in the beginning he says we will all turn effectively to supreme truth, which is living light, which is divine light. We are destined to get to this point where we will be the same as we will have become light. And then he says, however, on the earth, for the time being, the law of progress is as much as for the spirits as well as for the material world. Remember, God created the material world and the spirit world. The law of progress is the law of progress. It says, however, on the earth for the time being, and probably for many centuries to come, though our obligation to render unceasing worship to the truth that we are more than the physical body, the truth that we will progress, the truth that we will become these creatures that have already become light, and be confused with the suns that you and I can see and the stars we can see in the firmament. Outside love, our problems of balance and rebalance will have no solution. So let's have the certainty that we are getting there, that the world will shine forth in cosmic immensity. And those creatures that have already become light, may God allow them to come, just as Jesus does daily as the governor of the planet. May his messengers come to the earth and help us and guide us so we don't fall into debt, that we don't delude ourselves with rest and joy, that we can be agents of the good whatever we are, because we are destined to be servants of the Lord. Guarantee that tomorrow this all shall pass, that you are divine light, ultimately, that you have the power to change and to improve everything around you, yourself included, that you can be an agent of the good everywhere you go. May your week be blessed. May your day be blessed with the presence of the good spirits, inspiring you and I to do the best we can. God willing, I'll be back with you next week for another chapter of the book Right Path by the Spirit Emmanuel through the mediumship of Francisco Candido Xavier. And until then, stay well, stay safe, take care.